Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Namir, would you please read the land acknowledgement?
As we gather virtually today, we respectfully acknowledge that we are on the ancestral lands and waters of the Algonquin people, who left their footprints on Mother Earth long before us. We recognize their long-standing relationship with this territory, which remains unceded. This acknowledgement should not function as closure, resignation, or acceptance of the past or present, but should spark a desire to learn about the true history of this country and provoke thought, reflection, and positive change.
Thank you. Father, can you lead us in prayer, please?
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. God, our Father, we come together in your presence as people with a shared responsibility for Catholic education. We ask you to guide us so we may guide our students and children. And we ask you to be present with us as you are present with them. We ask you to be a light to our searching and theirs. Our deepest desire is to do your will. Give us the grace to know your will and the strength to follow it. And we ask these things in the name of Jesus Christ, your Son, our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. There are no obituaries today, Mark.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Yes.
If we could all stand, please, for the national anthem. Welcome, everyone. We have no delegations, no public session. Can I get a mover for approval of the agenda, please? Trustee Moore, Trustee Curry. That the agenda for the regular board meeting of June 22nd, 2021 be approved as presented. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. School student department profile, none. Declarations of conflict of interest, seeing none. Confirmation of the minutes of the regular board meeting of June 8, 2021. Can I move her, please? Trustee McEwen and Trustee Warren. That the minutes of the regular board meeting of June 8, 2021 be adopted as presented. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Unfinished business from previous meetings? None. Trustee motions? None. Presentation and consideration of committee reports. K1, business arising from a special committee of the board, June 15, 2021. Read code of conduct section, Trustee Glenn Armstrong. Vice Chair Whitted, I understand you have business arising from the special committee of the board held on June 15th.
Yes, Mr. Chair. A special meeting of the board was held on June 15th, 2021 to review and discuss allegations of a breach of the trustee code of conduct by trustee Glenn Armstrong. The trustees unanimously agreed that trustee Armstrong had breached the following 4 areas of the trustee code of conduct. Code of conduct item number 1, breach of confidentiality by releasing confidential information before it was made public. 2, breach of the appropriate use of social media by using a personal social media account for both political purposes and also for board purposes. 3, breach of the integrity of the board by questioning the integrity of the board as if independent from the board itself. And 4, breach of conduct by exhibiting conduct unbecoming of an elected trustee, both through his conduct during the May 25th board meeting and through his inappropriate social media posts. The sanctions will be read out and voted upon at tonight's public meeting of the board as per the requirements of Ontario's Education Act. Mr. Chair, the following motion has been moved by trustee Spencer Warren and seconded by trustee Joanne McEwen. That the sanctions contained in the Code of Conduct report and recommendations be approved as amended. And I will read the following. Upon his return from a self-declared leave of absence for personal matters, trustee Armstrong is barred from sitting on all committees of the board, attending all closed and regular meetings of the board, and representing the board at any board-sponsored function, beginning with the school year end June 22nd, 2021 board meeting until December 31st, 2021. Furthermore, trustee Armstrong must participate in board-arranged coaching with a third-party facilitator with a focus on governance. And trustee Armstrong must provide evidence of redoing the trustee training modules as provided by the Ontario Catholic School Trustees Association that focus on trustee governance and responsibilities as a member of the Board of Trustees. During this time period, trustee Armstrong will not receive any documentation other than those publicly available, and he may continue to participate in training sessions offered by the Ontario Catholic School Trustees Association, excluding the fall OCSTA regional meeting. Trustee Armstrong may continue to represent and respond to inquiries from ratepayers in his zone. Trustee Armstrong is to immediately cease using any board-related social media accounts or board resources for his self-declared candidacy for a political party, and he must not use these personal accounts for posting or reposting anything related to the Ottawa Catholic School Board or his role as a school board trustee. Furthermore, trustee Armstrong, as an elected school board trustee, must not use his personal social media accounts for posts that could reasonably be deemed inappropriate coming from an elected school board trustee. Failure to comply with these sanctions will result in the trustee continuing to be in breach of the Code of Conduct and may result in the extension of the sanctions and/or additional Code of Conduct violations and additional sanctions. Furthermore, based on trustee Armstrong's totally inappropriate, politically motivated social media post concerning a national tragedy in the city of London, Ontario, which is contrary to the values held by the Ottawa Catholic School Board, the Board of Trustees censures trustee Armstrong for his egregious conduct unbecoming of a trustee. The board recommends an appropriate gesture of restitution would be a public apology to the Muslim community by trustee Armstrong. The board calls for trustee Armstrong's immediate resignation from his elected position as the trustee for Zone 6 on the Ottawa Catholic School Board. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair Whitted. Trustee McEwen, you trying to get a hold of me?
Recorded vote, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee McEwen. I would now ask the director to call upon each trustee's votes Trustees are voting on the recommended amended sanctions that were just read by the vice chair and a result of the special committee of the whole meeting. Mr. Director, can you call the vote, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will call upon the trustees in the order that they appear on my screen. Trustee Lawrence,
In favor.
Trustee Moore,
In favor.
Trustee Curry,
In favor?
Trustee McEwen,
In favor.
Trustee Simpson,
In favor.
Vice Chair Whittet,
In favor.
Trustee Warren,
In favor.
Trustee Coburn,
In favor.
and Chair Mullen.
In favor.
Mr. Chair, that's the results of the vote. They are unanimous, 9-0 in favor of the sanctions as read by Vice Chair Whittet, and these will be recorded in the minutes.
Thank you very much. Moving on, item K2. Memo from the Superintendent of Special Education and Student Services, Special Education Advisory Committee, SEAC minutes of May 19th, 2021.
To be received, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Efficient as always. Can I have a mover, please? Trustee Moore, Trustee Curry. That memorandum from the Superintendent of Special Education and Student Services dated June 17, 2021, and entitled Special Education Advisory Committee minutes of May 19, 2021 be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item K3, memo from the Director of Education, Catholic School Parents Association and Parent Involvement Committee, CSPA and PIC presentations. Mr. Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You'll see from the memo that we have several parents joining us tonight. Before I introduce them to bring their final year report, I would like to thank all of our parents for their support this year. The support we've received from CSPA and PIC has been outstanding, and I will turn it over to them to introduce the presentation today.
Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, good evening. My name is Roxanne Marborough, and I'm the PIC Chair. Also joining me tonight is Erin Ladiseur, CSPA Chair, and Teresa McGowan-Beard. She's sharing the Vice Chair position with Adrian Charlton, who unfortunately is unable to join us this evening. We are glad to be here tonight to present to you our year-end report for the 2020-2021 school year. This year has been universally challenging, but we are proud to say that we have been able to rise to the occasion. CSPA and PIC have many accomplishments this year to share and many more exciting events and plans for the upcoming school year. As you know, parent members for both CSPA and PIC are 100% volunteer. We are dedicated caregivers cooperating to provide the tools and support needed for parents to be active partners in their child's education. This year, the CSPA exec represents 7 parents from school councils, and we're representing 4 elementary schools and 3 high schools. And our parent involvement committee is made up of 7 parents this year, 1 PIC chair, 6 who are voting parent members, and that's including a SEAC representative, the director of education, the trustee, a principal, and of course, administrative staff. When we began preparing our report, we were amazed and proud of everything we have accomplished this year. We continue to embrace technologies as they have evolved. Our OCSB Google account has allowed us the opportunity to host, record, and share our monthly CSPA meetings and events through the Google Meet platform. The increase from 100 participants to 250 participants this year has been beneficial, and we have found that this has helped to double our monthly meeting attendance this year. Thank you to the Learning Technologies Department for your assistance this year. It has been amazingly helpful. We hosted 16 parent and family events that were all offered online and took on some interesting and challenging topics. You're going to hear more about them soon. This increased our presence and engagements this year across the school board. We have expanded our monthly newsletter to include regular content for parents and school councils from many OCSB departments, parent groups, and stakeholders. We also advocated for a virtual academy, a VA position on school councils, and assisted in developing a job description for this new position called the VA rep. We also allocated time specifically during our monthly CSPA meetings called the VA Spotlight, and this gave families in the virtual academy an opportunity to hear from board staff and students, ask questions, and discuss issues that were only related to the virtual academy. CSPA and PIC provided a much-needed stable voice to parents during stressful times. In addition to our monthly newsletter this year, we also provided 5 additional school council updates, which included 2 in September, 2 in October, 1 in November, and 1 in March, to relay vital information to school councils. We will be closing out this school year with 1 final update. With the use of PIC funds, we were able to update our prayer collection, transcribe our monthly meeting minutes, and are currently working on updating our website. This will allow us to perform updates more efficiently and streamline our parent content. Our continued partnership with SEAC and the Special Education and Student Services Department provided us the opportunity to introduce new topics to our special education night this year that met the varying needs of more families with special needs students. The yearly event is always much anticipated and a great success. The completion of the OCSB consent for the use and disclosure, international student, and OCSB Code of Conduct translation projects, translating protocols and forms, so they are now available in Arabic, Cantonese, French, Italian, Mandarin, Portuguese, Somali, Spanish, Tigrinya, Urdu, and Vietnamese. Now, you may wonder how we do this. Well, of course, we have our core team of dedicated parent volunteers. We also have the senior OCSB administration and superintendents and the OCSB communications team. Our partners this year we made new partnerships and strengthened existing ones. We, of course, have our partners with the principals, the OCSB staff and consultants, the Special Education Advisory Committee, the Ottawa Safety Council, and various community partners, including CHEO. Our perseverance has kept us going. By taking the lessons learned from the last school year, we rose to the challenge and started September with our virtual events. This provided consistency for families at a time it was greatly needed. Of course, we also do this with funding from the provincial government for parent engagement. The Ministry of Education provided $49,000 that went to 83 different schools, that went to our 83 schools this year. Elementary schools receive $500 each, and intermediate and high schools receive $1,000. And this year, PIC and CSPA received a regional PIC grant of $11,000. We also received a total of $24,578.26 in a Parents Reaching Out Partnership Fund. Due to the pandemic, the PIC committee decided that this year we would use the budget at a regional level. And at this time, we are on target to spend all allocated funds for this year. We will be putting in place next year, allowing for schools and school councils to access the partnership fund, and use it at their own levels. Teresa?
CSPA meetings. We held 7 CSPA general meetings this year with presentations by board executives.
This year we held 7 CSPA general. Oh, I'm muted.
We held 7 CSPA general meetings this year with presentations by board executive and staff on the topics of an update on the new school year, current and new board spiritual theme, safe schools, Ottawa Safety Council, school boundaries, health and physical education, continuing and community education, and environmental education. Throughout the year, we also had presentations from the Virtual Academy executive, school principals, staff, and students during our VA Spotlight. In addition, we held the school council tip night, a virtual academy coffee house, and we attempted the breakout rooms for an armchair discussion. After a few technical difficulties, we were able to divide participants into breakout rooms based on VA parents and school council members. We are looking forward to offering this again during our monthly meetings in the upcoming school year. We felt that this opportunity for parents to chat and discuss successes and concerns was something that we were missing this year. We provided an opportunity for parents to hear from board administration, superintendents, trustees, as well as other school council members and parent volunteers. We hosted real-time meetings throughout the year, which all were recorded for school councils and parents to watch. For communications, the 2020-2021 school year has been our first exclusively digital year for communications. We have increased our online presence and experimented with new strategies of engagement, including the use of multiple graphics for the same event and scheduled advertisement publication. Overall, CSPA is reaching a bigger and broader audience. Our social media platforms have seen increased engagement. The recording and posting of events and meetings has proven to be quite popular. We often receive requests throughout the year for these recordings. We have shared a wealth of information from various sources, increasing parent education whenever possible. The Constant Contact newsletter, our subscriber list has remained consistent and is presently over 4,500. We have continued to provide valuable information for parents and councils. Many more OCSB departments are providing information and submitting feature articles. We have used our newsletter to celebrate the accomplishments of our community and encourage positivity during this challenging time. Our website, with more information and recordings of our meetings and events being available, we have seen an increase in traffic. We have begun the process of updating our website to increase usability and ensure information is current. School council updates are sent to chairs and CSPA reps and is a collaboration with various OCSB departments to ensure a rounded communication plan.
It has been an event-filled year for CSPA as everyone has become increasingly Zoom fatigued. We expanded our usual repertoire of subjects to encourage our community in new and exciting ways. This year, our event calendar unfolded in clusters. November, we had our school council tip night, our special education and your child evening co-hosted with SEAC, tech addiction and your child with Dr. Michael Chang from CHIO. Then we had a brief break, but started out the new year with a bang in March with loss and grief with our Dr. Elizabeth Paquette and Dr. Richard Balduke, veggie gardening for beginners, Ready, Set, Groove evening, our virtual academy coffee house. In April, we had Take a Bite Out of Hunger with nutritious snacks for the school break, The Power of Connection with Dr. Jean Clinton, Equity and Anti-Racism, It's Everyone's Business. In May, we had the first of a two-part series, Indigenous Education at the OCSB with guest artist Rhonda Dockstader, The Home Stretch of the Pandemic with Dr. David Trainter, Eating Together over the May long weekend, Photography for Beginners, and June rounded out with our second of a two-part series with Indigenous Education at the OCSB with guest artists Twin Flames and Groove Night with Miss Amanda. We had lots of great feedback this year, and parents seemed to especially enjoy the outside of the box events like photography, dancing, and gardening that engaged the whole family. During this pandemic school year, CSPA was mindful to balance the heavy topics with something light in order to engage a wider range of participants. Overall, CSPA events had over 1,500 registered participants this year. What's next? Looking forward to a new school year. We see a broadening of topics with the continuation of both parent and family-oriented webinars. We have been and continue to research current topics of interest to our parents by surveying our attendees with each registration. This includes the addition of parent webinars to be offered this summer at the end of August during the Board Summer Institute. Continue to use technology to bring information to families at their convenience by recording our meetings and more of our events, and providing links to these recordings so that parents can watch at their own convenience. The return to breakout sessions and our general meetings for school councils, continue the redesign and transition to Google Sites for our website, streamlining content. PIC will return to offering an internal pro-partnership fund application process for schools and school councils to offer parent engagement events and activities that can be community focused. Continue to support Catholic education. Continue to advocate for schools and families for funding with the Ministry of Education. Continue to advocate for funding and finding support for schools and school councils for their greening projects and outdoor classrooms. Researching and reaching out to more community partners in new ways, how we can work together virtually and in person to share their information and available services to our parent community. Continue to improve and build on our communication strategies with school councils, extending to their parent community to assist in further parent engagement. Increase CSPA exec and PIC membership next year, creating new ways to continue succession planning virtually and in person. We are hopeful that during the next school year, we will be able to offer some of our meetings and events to the parent community in person. We would like to take a minute to thank and acknowledge the hard work of our CSPA exec team, PIC committee, SEAC, school councils, and the many parents who volunteer tirelessly to help not only their children in so many ways, but also their principals, school teachers, and communities. Our sincere thanks to Superintendent Manon Seguin on behalf of CSPA, school councils, and parents alike for her extraordinary contribution this year and partnership to the OCSB community. Having you as our liaison and board support this year was extremely helpful, as well as we all maneuvered and transitioned through the school year. We wish you continued happiness and success. We would also like to extend a heartfelt thank you to Director of Education Tom D'Amico and Associate Director Mary Donaghy for their continued support and partnership, and always being a wealth of information, making themselves available to answer our questions. In addition, we would like to thank Superintendents Ben Bellotti and Shelley Montgomery and Principals Michelle McGarry and David Nash for making themselves available during the VA spotlights, their presentations and highlights of the virtual academy, and being on hand to help ease the concerns and answer questions from our VA parents was invaluable. Lastly, thank you to all the Board of Trustees, Executive Council, and all the OCSB staff for their support, time, and knowledge. Have a wonderful summer. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much for your presentations, ladies. Do we have any questions? Trustee Whitted and then Trustee Lawrence.
Thank you very much, Chair. No questions, but just a couple of comments. Want to certainly congratulate PIC and CSPA for the work that they have done over the last year. I know it's been a challenging time, and I think the silver lining of the COVID-19 pandemic has been the ability to use all of this sort of technology, bring people together, and the amount of families and students and parents that you've been able to reach is astounding. So really appreciate that. Also want to commend you on your work with respect to the translation of documents. I've certainly heard some very positive things from families in my zone in Kitchissippi and in Bay who have benefited from having those documents accessible in a variety of different languages. So thank you very much for that. And lastly, I certainly want to thank you for your support of the various different students across the system. Most recently, standing up and supporting those in the LGBTQS plus community, and your support for Trustee Warren and I's motion recently this year. So thank you all very much, and have a wonderful summer as well.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think Trustee Whitted has said it all, but I had come prepared to talk tonight, so I'm going to. Ladies, you've done a wonderful job, and I really look forward to that newsletter all the time. I've been very grateful for the things you've posted for parents, to the workshops, et cetera, to participate in. And the second thing is I've noticed on Twitter how much you retweet things happening in schools or special projects or curriculum or whatever has is coming forth, and that's always wonderful. And thirdly, you're a real team player. So like, thanks for all your great work. It's really appreciated. And I really look forward to seeing you in person next year, but I hope that you'll keep that level of the online stuff for people that, just can't make those meetings and et cetera, et cetera. And it's probably a reason why so many more have bought in this year, because they're able to. So thank you for all your work, and you have a wonderful summer too.
Through you, Mr. Chair, can I respond?
Sure.
I just wanted to confirm that we do have plans to continue our virtual meetings. We'd like to return at some point to, obviously be in person and connect with other parents. But we did Facebook Live before, and we will definitely ensure that our meetings are filmed, whether we're in person or virtually online through Google Meet. But thank you so much, Trustee Lawrence and Trustee Whitted, for your kind words. We would greatly appreciate it.
Thanks. Trustee Curry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I would just like to echo the sentiments of Trustee Whitted and Trustee Lawrence. I think the presence that CSPA was able to have this past year has just been awesome. And I know the virtual format allowed me to attend a lot of your events, and I really enjoyed and learned a lot from attending. So thanks very much for that. I would just like to ask, I don't know, Aaron or Teresa or Roxanne, or it doesn't matter. I was just wondering, the PIC and the pro money, it could be anecdotal or it could be just your own view or whatever. How important is that money to the school councils? What does that enable them to do that is beyond what they could normally do?
If I will answer that, if you're okay with that, Aaron and
Sure.
Teresa. That is extremely important to the schools. That money, both the PIC, so when they get that money, they know that they're going to be getting the 500 or the 1,000, depending if they're intermediate high school or if they're in elementary school. And it is for parent involvement. So it is set aside for that. And it allows for parents to come in. When they have parent events, they can do refreshments. They can have speakers coming in for the parents. It frees up where they don't need to fundraise for that. And then the other money, the parents reaching out, that partnership fund, that allows a lot of the schools to actually be able to, like family of schools, can work together, and they can get speakers in that they may need for that family of schools. They know, those schools know their communities and they know what is needed. So by doing that, they can get in speakers, they can have larger events that draw the families in, draw the parents in. And it makes, by having them come in, they know that the children are going to have a better education when their parents are more engaged.
Well, thank you for that. I know they are important, and just to hear you verbalize that is really solidifies it in my mind. So thank you very much, Roxanne.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Trustee Simpson, go ahead.
Just as a trustee who has a number of children's support schools, I want to also chime in and say that, not all school councils are as capable of fundraising as other school councils. So the PIC and Pro money is of great benefit to them to be able to use to engage their parents. I also want to compliment you also and echo what Sister Shelley said about the newsletter. I, as a grandparent, enjoy getting your newsletter because I'm now re-engaged in healthy snacks and making gardens, and I'm armed now with all kinds of stuff to be able to do with my grandchildren. So I really do think that we should be engaging more of the grandparent community, as we are doing a lot of babysitting these days, and we enjoy your advice. So thank you very much for that.
Any other questions? On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I'd like to thank you, even though you've been thanked five times already, but that's showing that we really appreciate the relationship that, you know, PIC and CSPA and not only the Board of Trustees, but the school board as a whole has a relationship between the parents and the board. So thank you very much for all the work you do. Please stay safe during the summer. Relax a little bit, and if you get an opportunity to get your second vaccination, go get it. Have a great summer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a mover, please, to move the presentation? Trustee Warren and Trustee Lawrence. That the memorandum from the Director of Education dated June 17, 2021, entitled Catholic School Parents Association and Parent Involvement Committee presentations be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, ladies. Item K4, memo from the Superintendent of Special Education and Student Services, Special Education Advisory Committee year-end presentation. Superintendent Seguin, last presentation, is it today?
Almost, Mr. Chair. So through you, I'd like to say that it has been a real pleasure to work once again with our SEAC committee and the dedicated parent and association volunteers who represent several groups in our community. This committee supports our most vulnerable students, and I would like to especially thank them for their dedication. This evening, our SEAC chair, Susan Malome Kasumba, is presenting with the vice chair, Tracy Clark, their year-end report. I would like to take the opportunity to thank our chair, who has decided to step down from her role but will remain on the committee. So thank you so much, Susan and Tracy, for your dedication.
Thank you.
Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. My name is Susan Mulame Kasumba, and I'm joined by Tracy Clark. Tracy's the Vice Chair of SEAC, and I'm the current Chair. Good evening, Chairperson Mullen, Director D'Amico, Associate Director Donaghy, Vice Chair Whittet, and members of the administration. On behalf of SEAC, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you, to thank you for your support throughout the year. And thank you, Vice Chair Tracy Clark, for helping prepare our report. Next slide, please. Thank you. We have representatives on SEAC from 7 associations and 4 community members at large. We also have trustees Sandra Moore and John Curry and Trustee Simpson as an alternate. And of course, we have OCSB on the committee. Thanks to the COVID pandemic, the slivers in access to education that I spoke about last year have opened back up into gaps for many children. I know that through hard work with our educators, these gaps will be reduced back to slivers. We worked with superintendents again over this school year to receive presentations about how our board supports children who have the following exceptionalities: ASD, deaf, hearing impaired, Down syndrome, gifted, learning disabilities, FASD, and intellectual disabilities. We also received presentations from the corresponding association to learn more as a committee about each exceptionality. We were very happy to learn, with no surprise, that our current board has strategies and programming in place to help meet the needs of these children. SEAC provided feedback to the board about what we hear through our associations and through the committee and through the community with respect to strategies. We appreciate that the board takes our feedback into consideration, and we thank you. Next slide, please. On SEAC, we hear from parents about problems that they are having with their school, usually through the SEAC at OCSB email. This is exciting because it means that parents know about us and know that we can be used as a resource. We communicate these issues to superintendents again, and even during a pandemic, our expectations are very high. I expect at times we may seem ungrateful when things go do not go as expected. Parents will describe to me through the email or in person, or they'll speak to Vice Chair Tracy Clark, and they'll describe an issue that they're having with their classroom teacher or their school. Depending on where they are in the process, we usually respond by advising them to please contact the resource teacher, vice principal, principal, or superintendent. We may suggest a case conference with a special education consultant, or we may reach out to superintendents again ourselves. I always ask the parents to reach back to me if they have any questions or if they're unhappy with the resolution. The fact that I'm not hearing back from parents says so much about our board. Situations are getting resolved to parent satisfaction. We appreciate this so much, and we thank you for that. Next slide. Director Tom D'Amico and your team, thank you for your leadership this year. We were so honored that you attended our October meeting and answered our questions about the board's response to the pandemic. Superintendents, again, our committee has enjoyed working with you. Your leadership in the department leaves big shoes to fill. Your passion and advocacy for children with special needs within the school board has resulted in them being very well supported. We wish you all the best of luck in your retirement, and we will miss you. A special thank you to Carol McBride, Superintendent Seguin's assistant, truly a right arm. She's very responsive in helping us prepare for our meetings and other sending letters out to Minister Lecce and other things in the community. We really appreciate all of your help and support, Carol. Thank you to the special education department staff. We hear from the leadership team often, and we appreciate this. The professional development courses for Spec Ed are so thorough in terms of topics. We actually wish that we had the opportunity to take some of these courses ourselves. Thank you for this. And thank you to CSPA for all you do for the school community. Aaron, Adrian, and Teresa, we appreciate you. The programming you offer parents and children is invaluable. Adrian will miss you, and we wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors. And thank you to PIC for including special education and children with exceptionalities and their parents on your agenda. Roxanne, we appreciate your hard work. Next slide. A huge thank you to the Board of Trustees. Thank you, Chairperson Mullen, Vice Chair Whitted, and all the trustees for your leadership in making sure that our children receive equitable and inclusive access to education within our board. We thank you for improving an additional $18.1 million in funding for special education in the recent balanced budget that was passed. We thank you for authorizing the expenditure of an amazing $230,000 to display the Rainbow Progress flag at the board headquarters and school during Pride Month, a huge investment in our children's mental health, and a show of support to both 2S LGBTQ plus children and their families in our board. We appreciate you taking into consideration our recommendations and adding extra funding for psychological educational testing over the summer this year. And we thank you for all the funding that you've approved to spend on special education next year. Next slide, please. Our goals for the 2020-21 school year, our main goal was to improve communication. The board website was updated. SEAC is now found under the special education quick link with board links to important information for parents and guardians. The board is working on translating documents. We just heard from CSPA and PIC about the different languages that documents are available. We're hoping that IEP translation will be coming soon. We feel it was important to let parents know more about SEAC and how we can help to navigate what our board can do to help with special education needs. And CSPA has been critical to helping with this in the school year and over the summer. Next slide, please. We've been sharing information in CSPA's monthly newsletter, notifying parents of upcoming presentations at SEAC meetings and advertising the search for new parent members of SEAC. We found 2 members. Thank you very much for that. We've also worked with CSPA and the Special Education Department to deliver the annual Spec Ed Night for Parents. 2020 featured 9 different sessions and parents had the opportunity to attend 2. We also attend the bi-monthly PIC meetings to provide input on how the board can better engage parents of children with exceptionalities. As Superintendent Seguin mentioned, I will be stepping down as SEAC Chair after this board meeting. Tracy Clark, our Vice Chair, will fill my seat, and I will fill her vacant Vice Chair seat until elections. I will remain on the committee as a member at large. I've asked Tracy to share the main SEAC goals for the upcoming school year. Next slide, please.
Good evening. We would like to further and strengthen our partnership with board staff, CSPA, and PIC. It is important to work together to help the students in our board reach their full potential. We have already started working with CSPA to plan our Spec Ed evening for the fall and a transition event later this summer. The new EDI framework will be instrumental in providing support and inclusion to children with exceptionalities. We would like to have a voice on the advisory panel to ensure that special needs are among top of the mind. Communication is important, and we'd like to continue to find ways to make sure all parents receive important information. We will work together to make sure parents and staff are aware of what OCSB has to offer in regards to special education, whether it's through the CSPA newsletter, during our meetings, social media, and other forms of communication. I am looking forward to chairing SEAC until the next elections and welcoming and working with our new superintendent. Susan has some closing remarks.
Thank you, Tracy. We also just have the slide up about transition plans. That's also a goal that we'll be working on for next year, is working on improving the transition from JK to elementary to middle and high school to post-secondary, post-21. Next slide, please. And the slide after that. Gratitude rooted in joy fills us with hope. I'm grateful that our students have been supported through this incredible pandemic journey, and I'm grateful that our board has a focus on their mental health. I'm joyful that our province is opening up, and our children can have a wonderful summer getting reacquainted face-to-face with their friends. I'm hopeful that September will bring back normalcy to our school experience, and that the gaps that all children have faced will turn back into slivers. It has been my great pleasure to serve as the chair of SEAC for the school board, and I wish you all blessings, a relaxing summer, and I hope to see you soon. Through you, Mr. Chair, we'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies, for the presentation. Questions or comments? An exceptional presentation. You left everybody speechless. Thanks very much for everything you do. And you know, there are some boards where the parent committees have a rougher relationship, and we have obviously a great relationship with SEAC and with PIC and CSPA, and we're very happy that this is the case. Thank you very much for your being chair, Susan, and Tracy. Welcome, and we'll continue on with our goals. And if you have any questions, we're always open to advise you. Have a great summer. As I said to the last young ladies, enjoy yourself, relax, and if you get the second needle, get it quick.
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you very much, and I look forward to my new role. And we'll see you in the fall.
Hopefully 18 months without meetings in person, we can be back in the boardroom in September. Yes, I totally agree with you there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies. Can I have a mover for the motion, please? Trustee Moore. And a seconder, Trustee Whitted. That the memorandum from the Superintendent of Special Education and Student Services dated June 16, 2021, entitled Special Education Advisory Committee Year-End Presentation to be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item L1, memo from the Superintendent of Special Education and Student Services, Recovery to Growth, OCSB Mental Health and Emotional Wellbeing Strategy 2021 to 2024. Welcome, Superintendent Seguin and Dr. Bolduc.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So through you, it is a great opportunity for us to present to you our 3-year mental health strategy. Dr. Balduc, as mental health lead, has consulted with numerous stakeholders, such as our mental health steering committee, including student voice, parent voice, and school administrators. The strategy is developed to respond to the data collected within our board and has been also largely influenced by our global pandemic and its impact on children and teens as collected by research. Our strategy aligns with the board's spiritual theme, the equity framework, and the strategic commitment. Thank you, Dr. Balduc, for this presentation and your leadership.
I will bring up through you, Mr. Chair, I will bring up the presentation. Tonight's presentation is on From Recovery to Growth, our Ocsb mental health and emotional well-being strategy. It is with great pride and pleasure that I wish to present this to you all this evening. The purpose and mission and vision of this strategy has been to increase awareness, to build capacity, and promote evidence-based approaches that will focus on equity and diversity. We believe in the whole child and youth approach to student mental health and emotional well-being. All students will find support to reach their full potential in a time of post-pandemic recovery. We are looking at permitting students to flourish and have a strong sense of belonging in their school community. Virtual and in-person schools will be mentally healthy schools, fostering caring and accepting learning environments. We want to foster equitable partnerships with parents, educators, and students, to empower all students through agency and leadership to recognize their unique needs and seek the appropriate support to be well. Our values and commitments and mental health within the context of the strategy flow with what the Superintendent Seguin indicated as being our board equity framework, as well as our board spiritual theme of gratitude rooted in joy fills us with hope. As a Catholic educational community, the importance of nurturing the relationship between our students, the mental health, and their faith is cardinal. We will continue to focus on those who experience illness, oppression, the disenfranchised, lonely, and impoverished. Our mental health values are based on the importance of continued development of positive relationships with our students. We will serve through acceptance, compassion, equity, and empowerment to mitigate the disproportionate struggles experienced by some and instill a sense of hope in this time of pandemic recovery. To give you a quick overview of statistics, we know that through a recent study through Sick Kids Hospital in 2021, 70% of youth aged 2 to 18 reported worse mental health during the lockdown. Our survey results also showed within our board through the spring of 2019 that students were feeling worried. 13% were feeling worried. 33% were noting having a hard time falling asleep. 45% were very stressed about their work. And 11% were feeling sad all the time. Our intermediate and secondary students, through several responses, report at least once per month feeling overwhelmed at 50%, with fear for no reason. 54% feeling intense worries that got in the way of their daily activities. And as you can see, these statistics are high, even to the point of reporting low energy in the interest of doing things and feeling down. We believe through the Corey Elm Keys model that we want to continue to begin and continue to flow the perspective of optimal mental health through flourishing and minimize poor mental health, which is languishing. All throughout the pandemic, over the 15 last months, we've seen an element of languishing that's been reported, written, and that's been shown through the media. We and our Tier 2 mental health groups registrations and of attendance, over 600 students have shown significant indicators of noted social and emotional improvement through the process of helping our students in this time of need. So in this quadrant-based system, we believe that optimal mental health without mental illness is where we're heading. And certainly it's been there through 2 previous strategies, but this strategy reinforces and anchors down the perspective of the need to help our students in our system. We are basing our strategy on a 3-tiered model that was initially developed through School Mental Health Ontario, which we've customized to our board. Tier 1 being supports for all students, focusing on the educators, promotion of mental health and well-being by classroom teachers, itinerant and regular resource teachers. Will focus at helping understand within the classroom the basis of this pyramid, at introducing this important language of health and well-being. At our Tier 2 level, we are focusing on some students, for students who may be at risk, through focus on targeted group interventions and mental health workers, itinerant EAs as well. These two tiers at the bottom help that third tier, which is the support for a few students. And what we mean by a few students are the students that are most at need, where we have our school psychologists, our social workers, and addiction counselors, and behavior and analyst consultants. This third tier is the top of the pyramid, is one that could be helped through mentally healthy language and supports at the first and second tier. This is the area that I will work at with my mental health workers in the context of the work that we're doing here at the school board, and to help the system and to promote through School Mental Health Ontario at the Tier 1 level as well. 5 areas of focus. The supports we want to implement at each tier will follow on under these 5 areas of focus, which are organizational conditions, ensuring that students and staff mental health and well-being remains the priority within our school board community. Our capacity building will be a continuing to offer OCSB staff the level of training that is appropriate and optimal for their roles. Evidence-based practices and programs at implementing evidence-based informed mental health as well as well-being approaches and programs will be also of highest importance. Equitable and inclusive supports focusing on the relationships with individuals, differentiating those supports to meet the unique needs of what is needed in our school board community. Coordination of school, families, and community partners, fostering community partnerships that ensures that students have the resources that are needed and to overcome those challenges. Focusing on student well-being as a shared responsibility that we know that exists between family, school, church, and the community. Our mental health strategy for the next 3 years will focus on the rollout in the fall of this strategy, as well as to understand the system and the significance and emphasis that has to happen on post-pandemic recovery and the associated needs that we will discover. We will implement evidence-based strategies to all elementary and high schools. We will follow through with scans, action plans on a yearly level, and ongoing cross-reference with not only our board, but with other boards locally and provincially through School Mental Health Ontario. An increase of mental health literacy at the Tier 1 level in all elementary schools and high schools as well, and also increased staff awareness and understanding our current and emerging mental health issues. Indigenous, racialized students and 2S LGBTQ and impoverished will also be at the center of our strategy. New Canadians, mental health illness, special education are also in the forefront. Standardizing processes, review of documents and protocols will also be key. Our elementary K-6 and high school parent, guardians, educator involvement through the development of positive and flourishing approaches, as I indicated, will be there to minimize the languishing mindset. In moving forward, we're going to map out, plan a third path, as we had indicated in other strategies, but also focus on those Tier 2 and 3 levels for the next 3 years, creating professional developments, resources on various topics, continuing coping with group stress, as well as health and wellness resilience coping groups, informing principals through board-wide business, bi-weekly updates, and to be included in all our school letters or newsletters. Ongoing association with School Mental Health Ontario, as well as we heard tonight, presentations with SEAC and CSPA will be at the center of focus. Promotion of positive mental health and emotional well-being practices for all educators. Through you, Mr. Chair, I want to also give a special note of thanks to the steering committee, the Mental Health Steering Committee, the administrative team, and especially to Superintendent Signe for her hard work and belief in developing this current strategy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Mr. Chair, may I just add that the strategy is starting this summer. So not only in September, we have well over 1,000 students who have registered for social emotional learning sessions with our special education department. So students with special needs, we have counselors that will continue to do Tier 3, so one-on-one counseling with students. And we have our mental health workers who will be seeing small groups talking about stress and anxiety. So during the summer, we're working with students as well. So thank you, Mr. Balduc and the entire team. So we're ready to take questions.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments? Trustee Coburn.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It's an excellent presentation. Clearly, with regards to the virtual learning that students have had to go through and our educators have had to deliver, the mental health aspects of that have been magnified, I suppose. Could you speak a little bit to the plan going forward to try to address this? Hopefully in September, we're back to in-class learning, but if we're not, to deal specifically with that. Thank you.
We certainly have noticed that as well, and we were working very hard with the virtual academies throughout the winter, presentations to staff and support. So to answer that question, we have to look back at what was done and there to support the educators as well as students through our groups. These groups were in effect and in place, as Superintendent Seguin mentioned. We were running up to 500 to 600 students that were engaged in our groups throughout the winter. And we will continue to offer those services. As I indicated through the three-tiered pyramid, the focus at the tier 2 level is excessively important for these students and providing that information. Relieving stress and coping with stress is one, but also one on mental health and wellness is really the counter, I would say the other side of it, where we need to focus not only on what's not working through a languishing perspective, but on a flourishing one. Moving forward to the winter, with the number of students that will be registered in Virtual Academy, we'll continue to provide service to those students as well to develop mentally healthy language.
And as well, through you, Mr. Chair, to Trustee Coburn. So we have prepared some transition opportunities for students at the end of August for the ones who would need it, the ones who are coming from virtual if they need it, of course. And as well, we're planning some professional learning for all staff for the first meeting that we will have to support them in reconnecting and re-engaging with students who are coming in person in our schools.
Good, thank you.
Chair Mullen, am I next? You're on mute.
Trustee Simpson, Trustee Curry, then Trustee Moore.
Perfect. First of all, I want to compliment you. This is an amazing strat plan. It's very ambitious, which it needs to be, and I really do like the language that's used in it. Being a little bit of a goal and strategy geek and data geek, I was wondering if we're going to be at some point breaking this down into manageable chunks that, for instance, in 21-22, we're going to be building into either a board plan or a school improvement plan that we're going to try and implement this particular amount of work. And then we have some way that we're going to measure it, because as trustees, I know we're all going to be very, very interested in following along in the progress of the plan. And I mean, there's going to be highs and lows and modifications as you go along. So I'm going to be very interested to follow this, because it is an area of personal interest of mine. So I'm just wondering if you could comment on that.
Certainly, as I indicated in the presentation, we have a yearly plan that we monitor, not just within our board, but also in comparison to other school boards and provincially as well. So we will be taking in data. We have a data scan process that we run 3 times a year in our board to see exactly where we're getting. It kind of gives us also, it certainly gives us a clear direction as to where our strategies are working. And with this plan and this action, or with the data collection that we're doing, we're able to measure at that tier 2 and tier 3 level specifically to know exactly where our mental health workers are doing and how many groups they're seeing. We're able to account the numbers. We're also able to account the number of psychoeducational assessments at the tier 3 level, as well as social work and addiction counselor involvement. So we're very robust with our statistical compilation and our connections with other boards. And we believe that at the center of all the standardization of our services is the best way that we're able to have evidence-based programming for our students, as well as our employees, and within the process of the educators and what they're doing. So we are in place to have already, through the last strategy and moving into this one, a greater focus even on understanding what the needs are of our populations.
Trustee Moore?
I think Trustee Curry was before me.
Okay, Trustee Curry?
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just wondering to Dr. Bolduc, the strategy, which seems remarkable, but the strategy has a lot of professional development for educators. Also, I would suspect that the students through in their curriculum on their education journey get some exposure to mental health issues. But I was wondering, is there anything in the strategy with regard to getting students involved so that they know the signs so that they could recognize problems in their fellow students, like sort of having more eyes on the ball, as it were? And is there anything in the strategy that encourages that or helps that happen?
Absolutely. Through you, Mr. Chair, to answer the question, Trustee Curry, thank you very much. It's a very good one. And in fact, the focus is that we want to bring students in, for instance, in the steering committee, which they have been there already. So they know really what the pulse of what's being planned and organized is out there for them. The mental health workers are working in a group format specifically, and we're lucky to have this mechanism. They're working together. It's not individual as a tier 1, as a tier 3 level rather, but at a tier 2 level, they're working together and they're contributing to one another in their responses through a wellness perspective to help each other out or to give each other feedback in that process, which is wonderful because the group effect, as we know, will have a greater impact than any other model. So on a one-to-one, you can change, you do implement if that's specific for a few, but when you're working with groups, you're transmitting information that's mentally healthy on a wider scale and involving members to help each other. So certainly.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Ward?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Bolduc, excuse me if I'm asking something that you've already answered, but I dropped for a bit, so sorry. I like to go right to the references, as Superintendent Sagan knows. So looking at the references, and is it just serendipity, or is this a big area of study right now, the pandemic on the mental health of Canadian children? I mean, that it was a local study at Toronto, and that it fills the gap of our school climate survey not having the data for last year. Is that serendipity, or is this a whole area of study that we're going to see much more of?
Well, that's a very good question. Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll answer. That area of study is expanding, and we will see in the years to come, in fact, a lot of, I would say, development in that area. We are just at the beginning, at the tip of that iceberg, as we can say, of studies that are coming out. And for the purpose of this, this mental health strategy that came out right at the beginning or in the development of the strategy occurred during the pandemic, it'll be very interesting in how this strategy itself will be morphed and changed and developed as we go along in relationship to the developments of those studies that will come out. So by the time the next strategy will come out and I'll be involved with it, we'll certainly see a big change from this one to the next one with regards to the expansion of studies that will be coming out. So I'll be keeping an eye on that, and as well as our team together. Thank you very much, Trustee.
Thank you. Can I have a follow-up, Mr. Chair?
Sure, go ahead.
I was just wondering if with the new strategy, are you thinking of some changing some of the questions in the next school climate survey to dig down a little deeper in some of the areas, or and which areas are you thinking of at the moment? I know it can change, but just at the moment.
Well, certainly, that's, again, another great question. And yes, that will change. And of course, there will be a greater focus in on those questions and specifically to address the times. I think you're absolutely right to bring about a greater study, a greater emphasis, and a greater research as to what the needs might be as a result of the pandemic is going to be essential in the development of our strategy, as well as that yearly action plan that takes place that feeds into the strategy and development into the next one that will come ahead.
And through you, Mr. Chair, if I could add, School Mental Health Ontario is a great guideline for us. Mm-hmm. So they will keep us abreast of the latest studies and surveys and research, of course, and they will give us direction when we come to collect our own data. So thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Trustee Curry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll try not to be too long. To you, to Dr. Bolduc, is there, the strategy mentions in a couple of places about a focus on the impoverished, although it mentions other groups as well. I was wondering, is there research that shows that economic factors are a major contributing factor to mental illness or not? And just to put that in some context, like say in Stittsville, where I am, we're considered a fairly wealthy community overall, but there's still lots of mental health issues by our students. So just what role do economic factors play? I mean, I don't think that mental illness is exclusively the realm of one particular group or another, that it knows no boundaries. But is there particular research that shows about economic factors or not?
Trustee Curry, thank you very much. And through you, Mr. Chair, you've already started to answer the question. Certainly, we are definitely seeing, we see the mental health concerns that are there across all populations. So to single out one specific group more than another is not the purpose, but rather to understand that it is a combination of all our populations together that we need to be addressing. So as you indicated, mental health can be a concern in the languishing perspective for several and individual populations. With regards to the impoverished, as we know, there are less access to services that are out there. So when you're needing to see a psychologist, when you already have an employment with a government position, or if you have an employment that can permit you to have the insurance and the benefits to access those sources, it's a lot easier. So we find it more difficult we notice the difficulties, and the studies do show, to quote one more than others, I think that it's important to recognize that through School Mental Health Ontario, there's been a very clear assessment of these specific impoverished populations that might be struggling. So to isolate one more than another would be, I'd rather steer away from that. I'd rather focus in on what we can do within our board to help all populations, specifically the children that are most in need in our populations in the city that are affected greatly and don't have these services that can be accessed.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Simpson.
I'd just like to add another comment. I really appreciate the upstream approach that's being used in this strategy, that we aren't just being reactive. We are really looking at being proactive, and especially in Tier 1 and Tier 2, particularly with the youngest in our population, because we know that when we start attacking things upstream, particularly with anxiety, that it doesn't build. And I also appreciate, Dr. Balduc, the work that you've been doing with CSPA, because I also believe that it's very important to keep our parents informed and to give parents strategies, particularly with these little ones, so that we can tackle some of these smaller problems before they become, larger problems. And I love the wording of our SEAC president, who said, before they become gaps, let's treat the slivers. So I want to thank you for recognizing the importance of the upstream approach.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just to answer or to complement and to thank, of course, the last comments, and more importantly, I think through the involvement of CSPA and the monthly newsletter, as well as adding a blog of mental health in there, has been excessively important throughout the winter since I've come into this role. Through January and February, the beginning of light, emergence of light, using symbolism and language that keys in to the necessity for hope and perseverance. These were all themes that were carried through the winter, and certainly as we begin the fall and we will move into a new academic year, I will certainly contribute to CSPA as well in this fashion to get the word out, not just to our educators, but through our families and our community. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for your presentation. And it's going to be a rough road to get everybody back to school and get things back to quote unquote normal. So thanks for taking the proactive and manner and being ready for what's going to happen. Can I have a mover for the item, please? Trustee Simpson and Trustee Curry. That the memorandum from the Superintendent of Special Education and Student Services dated June 16, 2021, entitled Recovery to Growth OCSB Mental Health and Emotional Wellbeing Strategy 2021-2024 be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Item L2, memo from the Superintendent of Planning and Facilities, delegated authority for matters requiring board approval. Superintendent Vella, welcome.
Through you, Mr. Chair, good evening. As we approach the summer period, we bring forward a request for delegated authority for board approval matters in the event the chair or the director are not available in person to approve or execute documents related to planning and facilities issues. Should delegated authority be used during the summer recess by the vice chair or the associate director, staff will bring a report in September summarizing those requests. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion, pretty self-signed. Can I have a mover, please? Trustee Coburn, Trustee McEwen. That the memorandum from the Superintendent of Planning and Facilities entitled Delegated Authority for Matters Requiring Board Approval dated June 16, 2021 be approved. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, Superintendent Vell. Item L3, memo from the Director of Education, additional regular meeting of the board, August 31st, 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next year, our school starts on September 7th, and the first board meeting is currently scheduled for September 14th. Given we won't find out till late July or early August any changes from the Minister of Education for our startup, we are recommending that we have a first board meeting on August 31st next year to bring you an update on school startup.
Thank you. Discussion, I think we've already had the discussion. A mover, please. Trustee Moore, Trustee Lawrence. That the memorandum from the director dated June 17, 2021 entitled Additional Regular Board Meeting of the Board, August 31st, 2021 be received, and that the regular board meeting of the board to be scheduled on August 31st, 2021 to be approved. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. No new business. No notice of motions. Can I get a mover for the confirmation of the action report of June 8th, 2021, please? Trustee Coburn and Trustee Simpson. That the action report covering the period of June 8th, 2021 be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Inquiries?
Oh, Mr. Chair, are we?
Yeah, we're going to get two more items.
Oh, okay.
Director D'Amico, any administrative announcements?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have several. I'll start by letting the board know that I'm pleased to share the Ottawa Catholic School Board is the #1 in the entire province for energy conservation, savings, and efficiency. This is according to a newly released figures from the Climate Challenge Network through the Sustainable Schools Program. And we were ranked #1 of 72 boards. I would like to thank Superintendent Valla, his entire staff, and all the staff in our schools that really were the efforts behind that honor. Secondly, I'd like to bring to your attention another award that you may or may not be aware of. It came from the Federation of Citizens Association of Ottawa, the FCA. And that's a group that citywide looks at associations for community associations and citizen groups. And on June 16th, they awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award to John Curry, recognizing his reporting of local news in Stittsville for over 50 years for his knowledge of local history and involvement. So I'd like to congratulate Trustee Curry.
Congratulations, John.
And at our last meeting, we did hear from our 2 student trustees. We thanked them for their service this year, but as this is their official last meeting of the year, I would like to once again publicly thank our student trustee, Patrick Bennett, and student trustee, Namir Goni, and wish them all the best next year. And we hope to see them back in Ottawa at some point for visits to the board meetings. 2 to go, Mr. Chair.
I got in my notes to thank Patrick and Namir as well, and they can drop by the 2nd or 4th Tuesday and actually drop by the board room and see what a real meeting's like. Not that these haven't been a real meeting, trust me, they haven't, but it's very different. Sorry, go ahead.
And Mr. Chair, I'd like to thank all of the superintendents publicly for their work this year. A special note of thanks to Mano Sega and Debbie Frendo, as this is their last board meeting as superintendents with our board. And on behalf of the members of our executive team and our corporate affairs group, our communications department, and the directorate staff, we would like to collectively thank the Board of Trustees and Father Peter for your leadership and your support of 45,000 students, their parents, and staff throughout this pandemic. We wish each of you an enjoyable and refreshing summer, and we thank you for your leadership. And that's the end of my announcements today, Mr. Chair.
And I would be remiss if I didn't give a heartfelt thank you and a happy retirement to Superintendents Mano Sega and Debbie Frendo. Thank you for all your hard work. Enjoy yourselves. As you know, we're going to have a virtual meeting after this one to say thank you. But thanks for all your hard work. Thanks for everything you've done. Enjoy your retirement. I'll have a little more to say later, but publicly, thank you very much for all the great work you've done over the years. So before we adjourn, I'm going to pass it over to our poet laureate and a recent award winner, Trustee Curry, and he's going to read a poem to close off the meeting. Trustee Curry, go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yes, it won't be just me. I believe all the trustees have a copy of it and certain sections that they're each going to do. This is the first time that we've done it virtually, a poem together like this. So there may be some glitches, but hopefully not. I think you all have hopefully the copy of what you're going to read. And just to say that we want to do this poem because this has been quite the year. I mean, it's been a year obviously like no other, and we wanted to try to capture some of the feelings that existed during the year, but more than the feelings that existed during the year, some of the benefits that came out of it. It was tough go for everybody, but in the long run, our board is stronger, and there's things in place now that are going to make us even a better board, better able to serve our students and our school community. So, anyways,
before you start, Trustee Curry,
yes.
Just to let you know, Trustee Warren wasn't feeling well, so you're going to have a gap there. So you got to better highlight his part.
Oh, okay. Just a minute. Let me get his part. Okay, I'll do his part then too. Okay. And just to know, I know a lot of you know this already, that poetry I write isn't that great. It's just rhyming couplets, but I do think it has poetry of such a simple nature does have some advantages, because you have to be very concise in your thoughts and straightforward and not use a lot of flowery language. So sometimes it's better. Anyways, the poem is as follows. It's called A Year Like No Other.
John, could we just ask all the trustees to unmute so we're not interrupting all the way along, telling people to unmute?
Can we do that?
Yeah.
Yep.
I just did it.
I was going to say the same thing.
Okay.
Someone's looking over my shoulder reading all my notes.
Okay. All right. So it's the poem begins like this. The Catholic graduate expectations, 7 in all, they're what makes an OCSB graduate stand tall. But for the class of 2021, this year's group, there's an eighth descriptor in this education soup that applies not only to students, but to the whole OCSB gang. It's being COVID survivors. What the hang.
Everyone going from in-person to remote, just like that, moving back and forth like a cat. A whole new vocabulary came with it. Masks, social distancing, PPE, that's only a bit. There's asynchronous and synchronous learning. Oh boy. What about cohort and quadmester? Don't be coy. Then there's the online virtual academy. Oh yes, a challenging innovation for students and staff, a real test. But now it's going to continue to be here to students who flourish online, don't you see?
In the past school year, there were not many sports. Oh no, clubs could not function. Isn't that so? No special events and activities, how sad, but learning continued, so it was not all bad. Teachers and students pivoted as required. Whatever the case, everyone was striving to reach that elusive first base, where learning could take place, for sure, with everyone safe and well. What a lure.
Yellow buses became a rare sight as in-person schooling closed down. Isn't that right? Sure, the classes were long, we say, with lots of homework each learning day. Students and teachers all adopted this new way. Relationships were formed, a key to learning, we say.
March break became spring break, not a great change for heaven's sake. Computer skills grew and grew for students, parents, and certainly the teaching crew.
The major advance, though, was in that trait that we know as resiliency, an important thing of late. It made students and staff adaptable and strong. In this, we surely are not wrong. For thanks to this resiliency born in these COVID days, the future looks bright in oh so many ways.
It has been difficult. It has been different. It's been stressful, yes. This past year will be a time never forgotten, no less. We're all COVID survivors. It was quite a year, but we made it. So let's be happy and even shed a joyful tear. We survived COVID and all its worries, we say. Now let's go and have a great summer day upon day. And when September comes, as quickly it will, we'll all be ready to climb the schooling hill.
Education will go on better than ever in many ways because of what has happened in these COVID days. It's been quite a trip we have all taken, but one thing was never forsaken, and that's the belief that students come first above all. At the end of the day, this principle stood tall.
This all was because of that special relationship, we say, between student and teacher that happened each and every day. For learning, this is the key, whether in COVID or normal times, don't you see?
It took lots of flexibility and change over these months in the past for students and staff to achieve a learning environment that would last. But learning did happen, isn't that swell? And yes, mental health was handled as well. This COVID year was quite a trip, certainly not a bore, a year that will definitely go down in OCSB lore.
We all lived through it. What a relief. And it gave us all one dominant belief, namely that if in COVID times we could survive, then in the future Catholic education will thrive. The COVID pandemic did not beat us, no way. It just made us stronger and more innovative, we say. And it gave us something we all can use, the gift of patience that we shouldn't lose. Add this to appreciating the value of friends we could not see, and you have discovered for both education and life the key.
Thank you very much.
That's it.
The last person I want to thank here, of course, is the Board of Trustees. It's been a interesting and harrowing year, and not being in the boardroom, seeing each other and having the side chats and asking about their families and just sharing that has been a big gap this year that I've missed. But I wanted to say that I think we made the absolute right decision last year. So I wanted to congratulate Director D'Amico on his first school year. And you did an absolutely excellent job in a most tumultuous year with everything changing, with very little information being given in a timely manner. And inside joke between Tom and I that the province would announce stuff in the public before we would be told in the meeting Tuesdays at 2:00. So it has been very trying, but Tom, you've done an absolute fantastic job. You and the superintendents and the whole school board staff has made put the students first and made the board look very well, very good. So congratulations to you, Tom, and your staff, and thank you very much for all your hard work. So what time is it? 8:31. Can I have a mover, please? Trustee McEwen and Trustee Lawrence. That the regular board meeting of June 22nd, 2021 be adjourned at 8:31 p.m. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We will be